Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. The church has a new website, and to my surprise, this new website talks about the second coming a number of times. It also talks about topics that you don't hear a lot about in new church publications or general conference talks. It actually reminds me of earlier this year when Elder Razban was speaking at an America 250 event, and he was talking about why America is special, that the heartland of America is where the Garden of Eden was, and how the continents were separated in order to keep America separate from the rest of the world so that it could be a secure base of operations for the Lord's church to take the gospel to the world, because religious freedom would flourish here. So it almost makes me wonder if the church is preparing its members and the world for realities that we're about to face at the time of the second coming and the millennium. When we're thinking about church history, when we're thinking about world history, there's a lot that hasn't been revealed to us. And we're going to be coming face to face with these realities when all the resurrected saints are here. From Adam to Enoch to Noah, that whole period of history is going to become a reality really quick. And so this is church news. This is where I first saw this. New Missouri Historic Sites website offers resources, information for visitors. There's a picture of the Liberty Jail. It's an article by Trent Toon. A new website created by the Church History Department offers historical resources and information for those interested in visiting or learning about the church's Missouri historic sites. The new website highlights the faith, courage, and sacrifice of the early saints, said Benedict Caroline Danzy. Oh, we saw her in a recent Church News podcast, actually. A curator for historic sites in the Church History Department who helped create content for the website. Quote, our new Missouri Historic Sites webpages focus on teaching about the saints' time in Missouri, as well as the places and people that were part of the story, she said. They also provide more detailed trip planning and accessibility information to help visitors prepare to spend time on site. You guys, it's so interesting because within these last couple of years, I've seen a lot going on with, I guess, the Church History Department, and especially with the historic sites. There's been a lot of renovation going on, and now we have this new website. It's actually one of 5 websites. This is the 4th one, where it seems like the church wants to connect members with these historic sites because, number one, it helps ground you in church history. There's something about actually going to a historic site that brings in more information. You can visualize it better. And I don't know, you can feel the spirit there. When I moved to Independence last year, I've been blown away by tracking down all these church sites in Missouri and Iowa and Nebraska and Illinois, and just the special experiences that I've had at these sites. And I've seen other people have spiritual and special experiences as well. But I think they want people to spend time at historic sites. And I don't think it's just about the past. I think it's about the future, as you're about to see as we read some of this stuff. I think a lot of it has to do with the future, because all these places, I would say, have a future. I recently did a video about this. We were talking about how the church has been building temples at our major historic sites, and specifically where we've had church headquarters. The most recent one was the temple in Cleveland, Ohio, which Kirtland is in the Cleveland metro area. So we both have not only the original Kirtland temple, but we also have a modern day temple in that same area. Just like, I think it's only like 30 minutes away. It's something like 20 or 30 miles away from each other. But so you get what I'm saying? I feel like the church is doing something here. Okay, so it says the Missouri Historic Sites website, and then there's the link for it, is the fourth in a series of new websites created for church history sites in recent years. And then down at the bottom of this article, it talks about a fifth website that's going to be coming out for Nebraska and Iowa, expected to launch later this year. And then let's just go down to this before we move on. So it kind of goes like through a little history of the church in Missouri. In the summer of 1831, the prophet Joseph Smith received a revelation designating Independence, Jackson County, Missouri, as quote unquote, the center place of Zion, the promised site for a future temple and holy city. I find that so interesting because there are so many people, I don't know how many actually, but I've come across a number of people in the comments section and other places who think that the plan has changed, that there's not going to be a New Jerusalem in Missouri. And there is. They're talking about it in this church news article, and we're about to read more when we go to this website. Okay, so this is the fourth of 5 church history websites, each one focused on a different geographic area. So this one is for Missouri, and hey, I know this family. I was surprised when I saw this picture. So this is what it looks like. The first thing that struck me was this green part right here, because this matches the sign that's on the north side of Adam-ondi-Ahman. Took a picture of this earlier this year when I went up there to look at the tornado damage. I didn't realize that, that this sign was here. Took a picture of it. I document everything. Here's the main sign at the main entrance, and I love these signs. The church seems to be updating all the signs of the historic sites. From what I understand from people I've talked to, I think that there's going to be one of these for the Far West Temple site. The Far West Temple site still has the old church symbol, or whatever you want to call it. I think it's going to be getting one of these soon. I'm excited for that because I love how these look. Okay, so you got this. Here's the one for Nauvoo in Carthage, and then New York and Pennsylvania. This one's a darker green for some reason. And then here's one for Ohio historic sites. You have this part of the Missouri site that goes through like the history of Missouri. Has a picture of the original plan for the city of Zion, or the New Jerusalem, with the 24 temples. So here it begins. I think a lot of people, when they think about the temple of the New Jerusalem, they think of just one temple, that there's going to be one great temple. They don't realize that it's a 24 temple complex. And I'm so glad that they have this picture here. They may have had this before on the old site or whatever there was before. I'm not 100% sure about that. But it goes through here. I'm glad that it highlights the temple lot. This is one of the stones on the temple lot. This is the stone showing where the stone was found that was originally placed by Joseph Smith to mark the site of the temple. Unfortunately, I do see people that, oh yeah, here you go. Here's the Far West Temple site sign. I think that this is going to get updated. Okay, anyway, let's continue. I don't really want to focus on this so much, but let me just highlight a couple things on this website. So they're making it easier for visitors to experience these sites and plan their trip. So I think that this is really good. You have sample itineraries. There's 2 types. This one is like a more simplified itinerary for youth and for families, and it just hits up, the major sites, with the exception of Richmond. It doesn't have Richmond on there. And then they have another itinerary. These are sample itineraries for quote unquote history enthusiasts, where it adds on a few more sites, but it's still missing a lot. But it does seem, I think it has all the witnesses of the gold plates on here, because we have 5 of the 8 witnesses here in Missouri that are buried here, and then 2 of the 3 witnesses. So this has more, but it doesn't have everything. And then yeah, getting around, amenities. And then it has, well, not so much on this page, but if we go back to the main one, if you go down here, it has this cool interactive map. So you can select independence, it zooms in, and it has some of the sites that are there. Again, it doesn't have everything on here, which hopefully they'll add more in the future, maybe to be too much for people, too overwhelming. But they have some of the sites here. I'm glad that they have the temple lot marked because there's so many people that will come here and just go to the Independence Visitor Center. I've seen it happen, and they don't even go up to the temple lot. That's the most important place in Missouri. I have a quote saying that that is where the Garden of Eden was, or at least it seems to have been centered on the temple lot. For all we know, maybe Adam and Eve were created in that spot, and that's why that spot was revealed by the Lord. Maybe that's the spot where Adam and Eve were cast out of the Garden of Eden. But whatever the case, the reason why there are historic sites in Missouri is because of that temple lot and how this was supposed to be the city of Zion, and it will be in the future. So this is really neat. They have this. You can click on, Adam-ondi-Ahman and all that stuff. So that's really good. I think that it's really good that they're doing this. They also have a list of all locations in Missouri, and I think that this has more locations than what was on the previous website. They've added more things on here, but again, it's kind of simplified. You guys, if you're looking to come to Missouri and you really want to see all the sites, or if you're a history enthusiast, or if you live here in Missouri or Kansas and it's easier for you, this is all the sites. This is my spreadsheet that I put together last year. I'm still working on it, actually. There may be a few more sites I add to this potentially, but these are all these are all the sites right here. There's way, 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 way more to see, but for a lot of people, it's not practical. I understand that. The link for this spreadsheet is in the description box of each video. And then I also have my Google Earth map. So here's Independence. And I'm not trying to say that, the church didn't do a good job on this, but if you look at their map for Independence, they have 6 places to see. There are way more than that. It's interesting because I've seen a couple things, including the church website, that will highlight the W.W. Phelps print shop, the original location, and you'll see this marker embedded in the sidewalk. But that's only one of 14 that are part of this series of sidewalk markers. It's called the Missouri Mormon Walking Trail. And just right over here in the historic downtown area, around the historic Truman Courthouse, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, you could even go over here, 7 that are just in this area. And one of the more important ones to me is the Nolan House, because this is where Joseph Smith was first brought after he was arrested at Far West. This was the first jail space. It was actually like an inn, but it was used as a jail for him and others that were with him. Now it's an ice cream shop, but Joseph Smith started his captivity in Missouri here, essentially, in the public square of Independence, historic downtown Independence. So there's more up here, but anyway, that's not the point. Let's continue. You can also check out my YouTube channel called Explore Church Sites, where I've gone to all these places and I'm still putting out new videos. So make sure to check this out. The link is in the description box below. And to simplify it, I have everything divided up into counties, like Missouri counties, and then I have a website or a playlist for Iowa church sites and Kansas and so forth. And in the description box of each of my videos, I have the street address as well as the GPS coordinates, so you can easily find these places. Okay, now, on this new website, there's a part called Establishing the Center Place of Zion. This is where most of what I want to cover is found. Unfortunately, even though I've done it 2 or 3 times now, for some reason, it's not saving my highlights. But that's okay. I after doing that a few times, I basically know where I need to read. Okay, so starting here, and I love that they have a picture of the temple lot marker that's at the corner of that area. Okay, in some of the earliest recorded revelations to Joseph Smith, the Lord taught the Latter-day Saints to seek to bring forth and establish the cause of Zion. Zion was the name of the prophet Enoch's city. The Old Testament explains that Enoch walked with God and that God took him and his entire city to be with him in heaven. In a revelation now part of the book of Moses, the Lord taught Joseph Smith more about Enoch and his city. The Lord called the city Zion because its people were of one heart and one mind and dwelt in righteousness, and there was no poor among them. Now, here's the part right here. As disciples of Jesus Christ, as disciples of Jesus Christ adopt the principles from Enoch's ancient city, they help prepare the world for the return of the Savior. So they bring up the city of Enoch, and again, we're talking about the center place of Zion. Here's a picture of the temple lot, and we're talking about preparing for the second coming. It has a footnote. The footnote takes you to President Christopherson's April 2019 General Conference talk called Preparing for the Lord's Return. I'd like to just read this really quick. These are old highlights. What can we do to prepare for that day? We can prepare ourselves as a people. We can gather the Lord's covenant people. We can help redeem the promise of salvation made to the fathers, our ancestors. All of this must occur in some substantial measure before the Lord comes again. First and crucial for the Lord's return is the presence on the earth of a people prepared to receive him at his coming. And I'll probably just end it there. But this is basically President Christopherson's one big second coming talk. Just like how President Nelson had his in October 2024, and President Oaks gave his back in April of 2004. And hopefully he'll give another second coming talk before his presidency is over. Okay, back to this website. The revelations prompted Joseph and other early church members to ask the Lord how to establish a city modeled after the city of Enoch. Responding to their questions, the Lord gave specific instructions. Okay, specific instructions about where and how to build Zion. He also explained the consequences of disobeying his words. Now, really quick, we can see that plan on the Joseph Smith Papers website. So here's the city of Zion. This was the first version. So it was a city that was meant to contain 15 to 20,000 people, and it would have 2 central blocks that would have 12 temples on each block. On the back of this page, it gives the names of the temples. They're in groups of 3, and each group of 3 has a name. For example, the Sacred Apostolical Repository for the use of the bishops. Or temples 4 through 6, the Holy Evangelical House for the High Priesthood of the Holy Order of God. All right, and then there was a revised city plat. So this is from what I can tell, this is the finalized plan. This is what the city of Zion would have looked like. This was revealed to Joseph Smith, not just the city itself, but also the temple. I believe that this is the plan for all the temples, but I'm not sure. At the very least, this is the plan for the primary temple, the house of the Lord. And basically, it would have looked like, and I assume it will look like, the Kirtland Temple. Here's a depiction of the front and the side. Okay, this was the first version, and just like the city of Zion, there was a revised version, and you can see it here. So very specific instructions. Continuing, one of the first directions was to share the gospel with native peoples living on the west side of the Missouri River. This area was part of the United States territory, but not yet part of any state. Oliver Cowdery and 4 other missionaries accepted the assignment. This mission was the church's first organized attempt Okay, sorry. This was the church's first organized attempt to share the gospel with people whose language and cultural beliefs differed from the missionaries. I have a spreadsheet where I'm trying to put together a timeline of church history, and there's a lot of work to do. I'm going through Doctrine and Covenants, and to easily visualize the different places where things are taking place, or the different periods of church history, I have these columns right here. So you got Palmyra, and then you have Harmony, Pennsylvania, Fayette, Manchester, Palmyra, da 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 da. And then when you get to here, this is 1830, September 1830, in Doctrine and Covenants, section 28. This is where the revelation is given to Oliver Cowdery to go on a mission to the Lamanites. Essentially, this is where, in one sense, the story of independence, the story of Missouri begins. September 1830, the first year in which the church was, or the year in which the church was organized. It had not yet been a full year. So it was just like several months later, and we get this revelation. And then later on, they arrive. Oliver Cowdery, Peter Whitmer. Sorry, that's supposed to be Peter Whitmer Jr., right? I have to double check. Parley P. Pratt and Ziba Peterson. They arrive in Jackson County, specifically in Independence. So right at the very beginning of church history, even though you have all those other locations, like this was pretty early on. Okay, continuing. In July 1831, Joseph Smith and other church members visited the missionaries in Missouri. The closest city was Independence in Jackson County. While there, the Lord identified the location of Zion's center place as Independence. The Lord commanded his people to gather there. He called Bishop Edward Partridge to buy property west of the courthouse. The land was for building 24 temples. Now, this is really interesting because, again, this isn't something that's brought up a whole lot. I don't know how many people actually know that that's the plan, that there was supposed to be a 24 temple complex. And I've heard some people argue against these actually being temples, trying to make the case that there would be one temple, but then the rest of the other 23 structures would just be buildings. And no, that's not the case. And here it's confirmed once again on the church website. 24 temples. 24 temples. Continuing, consecrated buildings dedicated to doing the work of the Lord of Jesus Christ in Zion. The first of these 24 temples was designated as the house of the Lord. And we find that out when we go back to this original plat plan for the city of Zion. And when you go to the back, it has the names of the temples. And temple numbers 1 through 3. So it seems like all 3 of those temples, 1 through 3, are called the house of the Lord for the elders of, wait, that might not be the right one. Hold on. House of the Lord. No, I think it's these ones right here. And that's why it starts out. Temples 10 through 12 are to be called the house of the Lord for the presidency of the high and most holy priesthood, after the order of Melchizedek, which was after the order of the Son of God, upon Mount Zion, city of the New Jerusalem. So, from what I can tell, all 3 of those are called house of the Lord. And these are the primary temples. If we go back to the first page, so it would have been these ones right here. But again, we have the revised city plat, and I believe it's these 3 right here. And anyway, I think that the Independence Visitor Center, which was built to be one of these temples in the future, and they built it according to the dimensions that were revealed here. I think that temple is temple number 13, but I'm not certain. Okay, back to this. Okay. Okay. The first of these 24 temples was designated as the house of the Lord. Joseph Smith received additional revelation appointing the location of this temple. On August 3rd, and I've done a bunch of videos about August 3rd, I fully expect that in the future, we will either see announcements or groundbreakings or dedications on August 3rd, because we already have. The groundbreaking for the Independence Visitor Center, which is one of the temples of the 24 temple complex, the groundbreaking was on August 3rd. The dedication of the Far West Temple site, as far as like its beautification and they redid things in the 60s, that was dedicated on August 3rd. Okay, so on August 3rd, 1831, Joseph laid the first stone of the new temple. Later, the prophet prepared a plat for the city. He also explained that Zion was more than just a center place. Quote, "When this square, or plat, is thus laid off and supplied," he wrote in the margins of the plat document, "lay off another in the same way, and so fill up the world in these last days, for this is the city of Zion." Okay, excuse me. So, there's a picture I should have pulled up. Okay, just anyway. In the new Nauvoo Temple Visitor Center, they show how all these important cities like Far West, Adam-ondi-Ahman, Kirtland, Nauvoo followed more or less this same plan. They followed the same pattern, and even Salt Lake City, at least to begin with, followed this plan. If you go to the Brigham Young Historic Park, there's this plaque on the inside wall. This is State Street that's on the other side, and there's the church office building. It makes reference to this, the plat of the city of Zion. And I guess the church received an award from the American Institute of Certified Planners, National Historic Planning Landmark. So they got this plat, or this plaque. Okay, let's go back to this. But yeah, so I've added this to my spreadsheet for common misconceptions because for some reason there are some theories out there that are entertained that the entire church is going to come to the New Jerusalem in Missouri. And that was never the plan, ever. The city would only be 15 to 20,000 people. And once it's complete and filled up, then you would just make another city of holiness, another city of Zion, not the city of Zion or New Jerusalem, but basically another stake. A stake is a city and a city is a stake. So I added this quote to that. Okay, then it talks about troubles in Jackson County. At this part, it says, "As mob violence continued and the saints struggled to carry on, the Lord assured them that their efforts to establish Zion, no matter how imperfect, were not in vain. Zion," he declared, "shall not be moved out of her place." This is an important scripture. Again, on my spreadsheet called Quotes, Common Misconceptions. So I've added what we've read to this, to the misconception being the entire church has to come to New Jerusalem. That's not true. But also that we have been excused from building the city of New Jerusalem. And that is not true. And that's what that scripture is all about. And I have all these quotes over here that talk about that fact. There's some of them that refer to that scripture, Doctrine and Covenants 101, 17 through 20. That Zion, meaning the actual city, is not going to be removed or moved out of her place. I'm not going to read those quotes right now because I've already done it a million times, but you can access my spreadsheets anytime. The link is in the description box of each video. But it's been said over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, back to the website. Stakes of Zion. Unable to build up Zion's center place and independence, Joseph focused on establishing stakes of Zion and building temples elsewhere. He began in Kirtland, Ohio, and then spread to Caldwell and Daviess counties in Missouri, or in other words, Far West and Adam-ondi-Ahman. The work of establishing Zion continues today in hundreds of temples and thousands of stakes around the world. Wherever the Latter-day Saints gather under the direction of living prophets to make and keep sacred covenants, they prepare themselves and the world for the second coming. So here's our next reference to the second coming on this website. They prepare themselves and the world for the second coming of Jesus Christ, the King of Zion. I love that title, the King of Zion. So I feel like this does a couple things. It reiterates the fact that Zion will not be moved out of her place. That this wasn't for nothing. There was the expulsion. And all this has to do with preparing the world for the second coming. It has to do with becoming a Zion people, similar to Enoch and his city. It reminds us, or tells us for the first time, that there's a 24 temple complex, but it also gives us the broader definition of Zion. And this is something that we've talked about before many times. Let's see, where do I have it? Do I have it pulled up? Yeah. On my quotes A through Z spreadsheet, what's currently row 472, the topic is New Jerusalem definition. And there are 3 definitions of what New Jerusalem or Zion, what they mean. One is the actual city that will be built in Independence, Missouri. So we have that city of Zion or New Jerusalem. But beyond that, we also have what Joseph Smith said right here, that all of North and South America is Zion. It's the land of Zion. And then the third definition is simply the entire church, all the stakes of Zion throughout the world. I have a quote where Elder Bruce Harmon Conkey, I'm not going to read it now, but he talked about the fact that each stake is essentially a city of holiness and a city of Zion. So you have 3 definitions. So when we think about the 4 appearances of Christ, the first one to Adam-ondi-Ahman, the second one to the New Jerusalem, I don't know at the moment if that means Christ actually coming here to Missouri and appearing in the Independence Visitor Center, perhaps once it's been converted into a temple, or after the church purchases the temple lot or whatever. I don't know if that's the case, or if Christ coming to the New Jerusalem simply means Christ coming to his temples throughout the world, to the many New Jerusalems and the many Zions that are throughout the world, in the stakes of Zion throughout the world. So anyway, so I added this here because it gives us another definition of Zion. I've also added this to my spreadsheet called Quotes Second Coming, because now we have our next Second Coming quote. This is, man, we're getting a lot this month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 Second Coming quotes so far for the month of August. So again, it's not slowing down. After the passing of President Nelson, it is not slowing down. And I don't know. I would have thought, if I knew that the church was going to be making this website, I would have thought, oh, it's going to be just like, it's going to downplay all that stuff. It's not going to talk about the second coming, and it's going to downplay the city of Zion. But no, it hasn't. If anything, it gives more detail. And then again, like I said, the website as a whole introduces more church sites to go see. And it's just, this is really neat. What's going on? This is really neat. But that's not all. Okay, so that's for, again, I love that, the King of Zion. This part talks about 2 times preparing for the second coming, as it's talking about the center place of Zion here in Jackson County, Missouri. That is so cool. The King of Zion. Okay, then I also went to the part of the website for Adam-ondi-Ahman, and it only has this. It says, while counseling about these plans, Joseph received a revelation from the Lord, which identified the area as Adam-ondi-Ahman. An earlier 1835 revelation identified the valley of Adam-ondi-Ahman as the place where Adam gave his posterity a final blessing. Now the Lord taught that Adam would again visit this place in the future, which we know has to do with the second coming. It doesn't explicitly say second coming. It doesn't mention that Christ is going to be there, but there is a mention of that. But that's not too new. When you go to Adam-ondi-Ahman, if you go to the Valley Overlook, which is one of the two places that you can go, you have this sign right here, and then this part is Adam-ondi-Ahman prophecies, and it basically just says what we just read. Talks about Daniel and his prophecy of Adam, the Ancient of Days, and all that. So you have this over at the Valley Overlook. Which, this scripture talks about the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. So everybody knows that that's Christ. So, for anyone that doesn't know much about the church, they would probably understand that this is talking about the second coming if they're reading this. And then over on the other side, Tower Hill, where you have all the historic sites, you have this sign, Welcome to Adam-ondi-Ahman. And I guess I don't have a picture of it, or maybe I have to go through my camera roll and find it. But you do have this sign where at the bottom of it, it says, sorry, I have to get up close here. In the future, Jesus Christ will return as part of his second coming. It's something like that. It does explicitly say second coming on this sign. I'm sorry I don't have a better picture of it, but it talks about the second coming on this sign. So I like that. Okay. And I think that's all that I have. So, as far as the 24 temples go, I added this to my spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z. I have 3 rows that have to do with these temples. Well, I guess 4 rows. So I have this one that just generally talks about the temples of the New Jerusalem without talking about the number of temples necessarily. I have a couple quotes where Wilford Woodruff and Joseph Fielding Smith talked about 12 temples rather than 24. Then I have these 2 where it talks about 24 temples. And then I have some quotes that talk about 25 temples. So it gets a little bit confusing, but I do think that the official answer is 24 because that's what the plan is, or what it was and is for the New Jerusalem during the presidency of David O. McKay. Like I said, they consulted this plan as they built the Independence Visitor Center. So I think that this is the plan. So I think it's just 24 temples, although Elder Orson Pratt seems to talk about 25, and he describes a temple that's much larger than temples that we build today, that it would seat, 10 to 15,000 or something like that. It would be circular and domed. And I think that could have reference to the Community of Christ Auditorium. I don't know, but that building does fit that description. Okay, but that is pretty much it. So this is really exciting. Hopefully more people come to see these sites and they feel the spirit here, get connected with church history, but also the future, and have a better understanding of what's going to happen in the future. All right, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.